Welcome to Planting Joy Gardens Midweek Podcast. It's Wednesday, and on Wednesday we talk gardening. Now on Saturdays we have videos that come out for you to enjoy. And so I want to thank you, whether you're a listener on the podcast or you're a video watcher. Thank you for coming back to Planting Joy Garden. So we're going to have a special discussion. We are talking about growing your fall and winter greens. I'm Kathy, and so let's get this discussion started. The seasons are changing and the days are getting shorter. And you may think the gardening season is coming to the end, but autumn and winter are some of the most rewarding times to grow fresh, nutritious greens. So we're going to explore how to cultivate resilient crops and to have a bountiful harvest during the fall and winter. We can have those crisp salads and those hearty greens from our backyard even as the frost settles. Now, the magic of greens is it reminds us that it's not a dormant time in our garden, but it's a time to start new things. So as the temperature drops, those wonderful spinach, kale, Swiss chard, arugula, mustard greens, collard greens, and turnip greens. This is the time when they are truly thriving in our gardens. So why grow fall and winter greens? Well, they're packed with vitamins A, C, K, and they have minerals like iron and calcium. And cool temperatures is the time where we don't have to worry about those pests that attack our greens. You know, those moths and those caterpillars. And also, our greens are some of the most frost-tolerant crops we can grow, and so they're perfectly suited for the fall and winter. Also, greens having such small root systems, can be grown in small places like our containers and our raised beds. So we can actually condense the size of our gardens and still get a bountiful harvest. So when we're choosing greens, we're looking at kale, spinach, Swiss chard, arugula, mustard, collards, turnips, and some hardy lettuces. So how do we prepare our gardens? Well, we want to make sure that we have a healthy, moist soil to support our greens. You want to start by clearing any spent crops from the area. You want to mix in some compost and well-rotted manure. Greens prefer soil that has good drainage, but capable of retaining moisture because they need moist roots. The soil should have a pH somewhere between 6 and 7, slightly acidic to neutral, and there needs to be plenty of organic matter for root development. You might want to consider testing your soil if you have been growing in that area for quite a bit of time. Also, mulch with straw or leaves helps to insulate the soil during the cold temperatures and help to retain some of that moisture. Now, planting. Timing is everything. Timing is the key. In most regions, you need to sow cool season greens 6 to 8 weeks before your first expected frost. If you live in a mild climate, you can plant right into the late fall and even in the winter. So what you're going to do is you're going to direct sow your seeds into the garden, spacing them according to your seed packet instructions. If you're looking for a head start, you can use transplants, especially for plants like kale and Swiss chard. These plants tend to start slow, but once they get going, they really take off. Also, you want to use successive planting with you putting out seeds or transplants every 2 weeks to ensure you don't have a glutton. You want to have continuous harvest and don't want to get all of your harvest in 1 week. So now let's talk about protecting your harvest. There's some simple things you can do, and we actually need to shield our greens from severe, sudden drops in temperature. And there's some things like row covers, which are lightweight fabric shelters that kind of protect against the frost and wind chill You can also use cold frames, particularly if you're in a cold zone. And this is like a mini greenhouse made out of windows or plastic, and it helps to extend your growing season. There's also for those who live in warmer climates, you can simply use mulch, which is a thick layer of maybe leaves or straw that will help insulate the roots and provide some warmth for your plants. So most fall and winter greens will tolerate a frost, but growth will slow down as the daylight wanes. The goal of winter and fall greens is to keep the plants healthy and harvestable as long as possible. So we're not looking for active growth in the winter. We just want to keep our plants healthy and harvestable. So you want to make sure you give your greens a good start early in the season. Now, watering and care of your winter and fall greens. So, yes, there's plenty of rainfall in the fall. There may even be snowfall, but we have to be careful that we are actually watering, providing moisture to the roots of our plants. So you want to aim for consistent moisture, but we do not want waterlogged soil. So you want to make sure your soil is a well-draining soil, even in the winter. And we also want to remove anything that's dead or any yellowing leaves. And you want to thin young plants to prevent overcrowding. And that's when the cut and come again method comes in. As you harvest those young outer leaves, the plant will continue to grow, and that increases your overall harvest. So now let's talk about harvest. Now most greens are ready to harvest when the leaves are about 4 to 6 inches tall. So you want to kind of pick around the outer leaves, leaving the inner leaves in the center to continue to grow. You also want to harvest regularly. As you harvest, you are encouraging new growth from that center growing point. And this will keep your plants productive throughout the season. So let's get into some specifics. For spinach and arugula, you want to cut the leaves above the base, but leave new ones because it will continue to sprout. Swiss chard and kale, you want to snap off all those big mature leaves on the outside, but don't touch that center portion. Collards and mustard greens, you want to harvest the young, tender greens if you want a bountiful harvest. So you're kind of working up the plant, particularly with collards. You'll find yourself removing the plants on the base, removing the leaves on the base of the plant and working up the plant. Similarly with mustards, you're taking those smaller leaves on the base and you're working your way up the plant. Now for the best part of fall and winter greens, the cooking and the eating. So it can be tossed into a salad. They can be used as wraps or bowls and adding nutrition to your meal. You can saute your greens with olive oil, garlic, lemon. You can add protein to your greens as you saute them to make them really bountiful and healthy for you. You can add it to soups and stews. Just chop those pieces in, drop it into the stew or the soup, and your family will never know it's there. Or you can bake your greens in. You can create casseroles, frittatas, or even spinach pies, my favorite. So there's so much you can do with your fall and winter greens. And if you want to keep the harvest going, you can actually overwinter your greens. If you live in a mild climate, many of the greens can survive through the winter and continue to grow the next spring. Things like collard greens, kale, Swiss chard, those things are biannual, and they can actually sit dormant and regrow in the spring. Some of the others, if you have sufficient weather protection, if you have a cold frame or a greenhouse, you can keep your plants going throughout the winter with no shortage supply of leafy green vegetables. So leafy green vegetables are perfect for your fall and winter garden. I would suggest, if you haven't done it, it's not too late. You can get out there and grow some leafy green vegetables, particularly like your mustards and your arugula. They are harvestable in such a short window of time. and they are also so delicious. So if you learned anything from this podcast, I would ask that you push that like button, spread the word, share this podcast with others. And if you have any topic you want to discuss or any question you want answered on this podcast, just leave me a comment in the comment section. I also invite you to see my YouTube videos on Saturdays and also to visit my website. It's plantingjoygardens.com. Gardens is with an S. Thank you for joining me. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you in video on Saturday. And I'll see you next Wednesday here at the podcast. This has been Kathy. Bye bye, and have an amazing day.